It was a 1-month-long trial, and the verdict coming out after less than 5 hours of deliberations. You've been here since 6 a.m. Did you know you were going to stay this late?
I did not expect this, and this is a very sort of rare, unusual, moment in the history of fraud trials. As you mentioned, we weren't expecting this to happen even this morning because all of these, if you look at the history of sort of the high-profile criminal cases, it's taken weeks, sometimes months for a jury to make deliberations. So for this to arrive within less than 5 hours, I mean, this really shows that the jury was convinced that this was a fraud trial, that in fact, Sam Bankman-Fried had every intentions of defrauding his investors from very earlier on. And he was also convicted of all 7 charges. So that also kind of solidifies that they were very convinced from the very earlier on that, he did in fact commit these crimes.
Angela, what comes next? Are we expecting an appeal from the defence case? We know that sentencing, the date has been set as well. What is he facing from here on in?
Well, the defence said that they are very disappointed with the results and that they will be preparing for an appeal. Now, we heard from the judge today that the actual sentencing will happen in March of next year. Now, that's when we will get the sentencing of Sam Bankman-Fried, but also his inner circle, like Caroline Ellison or Gary Wang, who already pled guilty and is cooperating with the prosecutors. So March will be a very busy month for us again, where we will be getting sentencing details of a lot of people involved in this case.
There's a conviction by the jury by how fast this came out. The fact that prosecutors painted this pyramid of deceit, does that affect what the sentencing could look like? I mean, we've talked about the fact that he could face decades in prison.
So he could, technically face lifetime in prison because he was convicted of all 7 charges. And some of these charges carry a maximum sentencing of 20 years. So that really adds up. But I think what's more important to note here is, whether him actually taking the stand, right, which was a very unusual move for high-profile cases like this because it opens up the possibility of, hostile cross-examination. And also a lot of what he said on stand could be, turned against him for the sentencing. So it'll be interesting to see how the judge takes that because obviously his testimony was not good enough to convince the jurors.
Angela, does this kind of have repercussions for any other cases that we might see within this space? Clearly, we've talked about how the prosecution had a pretty strong case going forward, and clearly with the short amount of time that the jury required to deliberate, they were quite convinced of that. Is there anything else that we should be looking out for in terms of broader industry implications here?
Definitely. I think what we heard from Damian Williams just now, who really brought this case, he's the Manhattan Attorney General. He said that this was basically a triumph, and that he's really cracking down on not only the crypto industry, but really the financial industry, right? That these fraud cases, crypto may be new, but these fraud cases are old, and that he's really bringing full force to address some of these issues in the industry. So we are likely to see more crackdown. We are likely to see more regulatory sort of scrutiny on the industry. And it'll be interesting to see how this, the fallout of this for other cases that the SEC and other regulatory agencies have against crypto companies.